Hi, this is Ann V. Brady, and I will be reading from A New Beginning, the story of my adoption, life, and service, illustrated by Eric C. Brady. I'm the author, Ann V. Brady. I was in the hospital for 3 days. I had to drink a gallon of water every hour for 3 days, and I was on bed rest also. I could get up to go to the bathroom. I was finally released and returned to duty. The day after I was released to duty, the senior DS came to see me. He was taking me to the range so I could qualify with the M16. Once at the range, the DS told me not to move for any reason and left to set up my qualifying set. While he was gone, the captain of Delta Company showed up and told me to follow him. I hesitated a bit and he ordered me to follow him. I followed the captain. Then he left to set things up. While he was gone, the DS came back and yelled at me for moving. He then asked me why I had moved. He was taken aback when I said the captain ordered me to follow him. I finally got to qualify. The range sergeant gave me my instructions. First, I had to zero in my weapon before I could test to qualify. In qualifying, I followed my brother's advice and shot right-handed. I qualified marksman. Whenever you use your weapon, you have to disassemble, clean, lubricate, and reassemble your weapon. If you don't take proper care of your weapon, it will fail you when you most need it. One day, the DS took us to do the hand-over-hand bars. There was a chalk in a box by the bars. I decided I didn't need the chalk. I had done hand-over-hand bars before, and they were easy. What I didn't know was the bars rotated, and I fell landing on my coccyx. I landed hard, and it dazed me. I sat there a while in a daze as the DS was screaming at me to get up. Eventually got up and felt fine, if not a little sore. For 2 weeks, the DS had to train ROTC cadets. ROTC cadets. The ROTC cadets learned leadership from the DS. They were trained how to train troops. The ROTC cadet we had was very tall. He couldn't call cadence, he croaked it. The drill sergeants I have heard call cadence have beautiful voices, and they sing more than call cadence. The ROTC cadet was a nice man, but because he was tall, he saw dirt in places where most people of average height, including the DS, couldn't see. So the cadets saw dirt in the vents in the ceiling of the barracks. We had to get ladders and clean places in the barracks that I believe hadn't been cleaned since World War II. The other problem was we had to move items in our lockers that we had hidden behind other taller items because the cadet could see them. The DS had told us that certain items could be placed behind items because they weren't in his line of sight. He was talking about hygiene items, not contraband. The ROTC cadet was all right, but everybody was glad when he was gone. The day came when we were tested on the live fire range. We had our M16s and practice hand grenades. We each had to pair off. I was paired with a soldier that didn't like women being in the military. Lucky me. He insisted that I take the left lane and he took the right lane. I used the bullet ejector on my rifle and covered him while he moved, and vice versa. We announced when we were moving and when we were covered alternately. At the end of the lane, I covered the left side so that he could throw the hand grenade in the bunker. After the exercise, my partner claimed I tried to shoot him. I told him if I had aimed at him and tried to shoot him, I wouldn't have missed. He countered with, I had only qualified as marksman. I then informed him I was shooting right-handed when qualifying with the M16. During this exercise, I was shooting left-handed, and I was a much better shot left-handed, so I wouldn't have missed. He gave no reply to that. After we had all qualified with the M16 and hand grenades, the DS took us to a special area in the middle of the forest. Here we were allowed to throw real hand grenades. Each person, when it was their turn, had to go to put on a flak vest and noise-canceling headphones. Then the DS brought us into a building that was only half built, made of special bricks. There were 4 or 5 drill sergeants in there with us. I entered, and they gave me directions. I was to pull the pin, aim, and throw as far away from the building as possible. The drill sergeants told me if the hand grenade fell in the building, they would yell for me to hit the ground, and one of them would throw the grenade away from the building. I had no problem throwing the grenade as far as possible. The one girl in our company who had finally qualified with the grenade, unfortunately, she threw the grenade just barely over the side of the building. The sergeants pushed her down as they all dove to the ground. It was lucky that they all got down and the building protected them all from the blast. I finally received my BCGs from Hawaii in enough time to go to the field for 2 weeks. Several of the female soldiers had problems with their feet. They were given profiles for light duty and had to wrap their feet and ankles with ace bandages. Yet the drill sergeants continually tried to get them to go for airborne school. The female soldiers kept telling them no. I started to have problems with my ankles and was told by the doctors that I had shin splints. I ended up getting a profile for my shin splints. We finally got a new DS to replace DS Roman. The new DS told us that he was from the Philippines. Before we went to the field, he informed all of us what uniform we were to wear to graduation. The females had to wear Class A uniform with black high heels. The hem had to be worn 2 inches below the knee and 1 inch above the knee. The new DS said he had to inspect the female soldiers' uniforms to make sure they were to regulation. He invited all the male soldiers to help him assess our uniforms. They had us parade in front of them outside the barracks. We had to turn around so they could make sure our uniforms were regulation. We were supposed to graduate on August 31st, my birthday. The DS informed us before we went to the field that we were graduating on September 1st. We prepared our backpacks for going out to the field. We had to pack aside from necessities our mess kit, sleeping bag, and our poncho. We signed out our weapons and we marched out towards where we would have field exercises. The first night, we slept in our sleeping bags out in the open. The drill sergeants told us we had to sleep holding our weapons. They told us not to let our weapons out of our hands, no matter what. We had slings on our weapons, so I wrapped my arm and my leg through the sling and went to sleep. Drill sergeants came through during the night, trying to take soldiers' weapons from them while they slept. The next day, we marched to where we would be camping. When we arrived, the camp was set up already. We still had to do further setup. Out in the field, we had sea rations, for 2 meals, and 1 hot meal was provided to us. During field exercises, we practiced what we learned in the classroom. We were split into teams of 4 and provided a map for navigation exercises. We had to orient a map to landmarks, figure out true north, and find different markers to arrive at our destination using clues, the map, and pacing. Our group had to start over once, but we compensated and were able to finish the navigation course in 1 day. Other teams had to finish it a second day as they kept getting lost. One day, the DSs took us to a range used for M60 machine gun and light anti-tank weapon practice. The range had jeeps, tanks, and tanks that were used for target practice. The DS set up the M60 for us to shoot. Each soldier was given a turn to shoot the M60. We were shown how to cock the M60, load, and feed it. It was fun shooting it. I had trouble cocking it with my right hand, so I used my left hand. After that, we each got to shoot the law. We were instructed to yell back blast before firing the weapon. We practiced first aid and also practiced what to do during a nuclear attack. We ran a night exercise where part of the company had to defend a hill and the other half attacked the hill. Because of my profile, I spent the exercise sitting around the campfire drinking coffee with the medics. After our hot meals, we had to clean our mess kits in several barrels, starting with hot soapy water, boiling water, and clean hot water to rinse the soap off. We spent 2 weeks out in the field. While we were out in the field, we used our steel pot helmets, clean ourselves with soap and water until we could get to the showers out in the field. We went to the showers once a week. At the end of the 2 weeks, we marched back to the company. As we marched, two soldiers started talking in formation. The DS stopped the company on a steep road nicknamed Drag Ass Hill. The DS made the company get down in the front leaning rest position. We had to place our rifles on the tops of our hands, waiting for the DS to let us stand. Unfortunately, these soldiers didn't learn their lesson, because after we got back in formation and started marching again, these two soldiers started talking and complaining again. The DS put us back in the front leaning rest position for an even longer time than before. When we finally got standing again, the DS made the announcement that if people in formation continued to talk, they might get a surprise blanket party. Once we got back to the company area, we were allowed to go into the barracks and get clean. Several nights before graduation, the mess hall was decorated with red checks and tablecloths. We were allowed to drink soda from the soda machines for the first time. We had the choice of either lobster or steak for dinner. It was a pleasant surprise. I decided to have the lobster. I figured I could eat steak anytime, and I love seafood. We spent the next several days getting our uniforms ready to wear for graduation. 2 days before graduation, the DS had a surprise for the whole company. He took us to a cabin out in the middle of the woods. There the DS barbecued, and we were provided with a choice of different sodas and beer for those of legal age. We were told not to tell anyone because the DS and we could get into trouble. We sat around eating, drinking, and shooting the breeze. What surprised me was the number of soldiers that told me how surprised they were that I made it to graduation. The DS pulled me aside and told me that while others thought I wouldn't make it, he was sure I would. He said he knew that I was determined to make it. The day before our graduation, I was called to the orderly room. My parents had arrived and were allowed to visit with me. My mom said that they were surprised at how hot it was in South Carolina. They had passed a bank that showed the temperature was 110 degrees. My mom, of course, said, "You don't actually do any work outside in the heat, do you?" I was given an overnight pass and told what time to report in the next morning. I brought my uniform with me. I enjoyed visiting with my parents and celebrating turning 24. I just made it in time signing in, as we were asked the hotel desk to wake us up early, and they didn't. I wore my Class A uniform and black Oxford shoes, as I couldn't wear pumps over my bandaged feet. I was still on profile. After graduation, I signed out of basic, got my suitcases with civilian clothes and 2 weeks leave, and rode home with my parents. And that is the end of chapter 5. And I hope everybody enjoyed that, and y'all have a happy Thursday. Don't work too hard.